When we define classes, they can only access their own private members and don't have access to private members of other classes. However, we may want to allow a class to access private members of another class. We can use the friend keyword to allow this. So let's look at an example. I'm going to define a class room, and it will have a number of private variables: private int length, int width. It'll have a public function, constructor, room, which will take in length and width when the object is defined. And I will assign the object or the class variables length to len and width from width. So that's my class room, and I'm also going to define a class house. Class house, it'll have a public variable because I'm going to print that out later into area. I'm also going to define a constructor, house, that takes in an object, that takes in the class room, object room, and will calculate the area by accessing the variables, the private variables of room and width, of length and width in room. So what you can see right away is the house class is going to be accessing variables, private variables from the room class. And so for it to be able to access that, we have to declare that house, the class house, is a friend to room. We can do that using the friend keyword, friend class house. So now house, the class house, is allowed to access private members of room. So to demonstrate this in action, I'm going to define an object room, pass it some values for it to assign to length and width. I'm also going to define house, home of room, that accepts the object room, and we'll take in the object room during construction and calculate the area. I also want to print the area just to see that it did in fact get initialized. Home.area and L, just going to return 0. So I will run that, and what you can see right away is that the house class took in the room object and was able to access private variables length and width to assign the area of 70. So multiply 10 by 7, got an area of 70. The house class was able to access private members of room because it was defined to be a friend of the room class through friend class house. So that's how we can access private members of another class using the friend keyword.